Welcome to BIM 360 for project managers. My name is Jess. I'm the event coordinator here at Microdesk. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel, not in the chat panel. Also, a recorded version of this webinar will be available on our website and YouTube channel within a couple of days. You'll receive an email once that recording is available. And just before we jump into the webinar, I wanted to introduce Microdesk to you all. Microdesk was founded in 1994 as an Autodesk reseller with a simple mission to assist architecture, engineering, construction, owners, and GIS firms with improving workflow and integrating project delivery technologies. 25 years later, and that mission still holds true. Microdesk is a well-established AECO consulting firm with 13 offices in the US and the UK. We have over 230 AECO consultants, solution specialists, and software developers that can help you in all sectors, all disciplines, and at all stages. Some of the hottest topics in the AECO world are globalization, urbanization, and sustainability. Urbanization studies suggest that the US will build 114 cities the size of Boston in the next 30 years. Here at Microdesk, we can help to make sure you're prepared to meet those demands. We use software from industry leaders and combine it with our vision and passion for sustainability to meet the demands of urbanization. Our team of industry expert consultants are redefining project delivery and asset management. We're committed to helping clients realize the business benefits of BIM quickly and economically by facilitating the use of innovative technologies and processes. We partner with world leaders such as Autodesk and IBM to utilize innovative technologies and methodologies to empower sustainable design and overcome local challenges. Our vision is to reduce the environmental impact of urbanization by helping the AECO industry to design, construct, and operate better projects more efficiently. To support the industry with these demands of urbanization, we provide full-service consulting. This includes building information modeling services, enterprise strategy and workflow assessment, mentoring and support, and much, much more. Now, Chris Virtual will jump on to take you through today's webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jasenia. And thank you, everyone, for taking some time out of your day to attend our webinar. My name is Chris Virtual. I am the Strategic Business Consulting Manager here at Microdesk. I come from the industry background, working over 10 years with structural engineers as BIM manager, director of IT, CAD specialist, Revit specialist, so on and so forth. So been working the past few years more on our VDC space, working with a lot of subcontractors and GCs across the country. I am a certified Autodesk instructor, certified in Revit. Yeah, that's my background. To kind of go to the next slide. So today's agenda, talking about the BIM 360 for project managers. We're going to start off with a couple poll questions and just kind of get some feedback from the audience real quick and see, who's attending and things like that. And then get into the actual BIM 360 platform. What does it mean? How does it work? How is it built on, on AWS and things like that? And then some of the BIM 360 supported workflows. As project managers, what are some of the things that you guys can be doing, within BIM 360 to help maintain projects and keep track of what's going on within your projects on a day-to-day basis, and then why most firms are making the transition to BIM 360, and then I'll leave some time at the end for questions. I'll try to get to your questions as I see them pop up in the chat box, but then at the end we will unmute people, and you guys are more than welcome to ask questions at the end as well too. So to start off, the first poll question is, what is your role? Just kind of want to see, are you more designer, engineer, project manager, principal within a firm, CAD, BIM manager? Are you from a finance team or other? Looks like a good mix between CAD and BIM managers and some project managers attending today. A couple designers and engineers. A couple more seconds. Okay, thank you for those responses. The next one is, are you currently using any type of BIM 360 services, whether you're just using docs, design, coordinate, some of the legacy glue field data? Are you still in the legacy C4R, any type of BIM 360 service? Excellent. Looks like we got quite a few that are using BIM 360 currently. Okay, and then the last one is, are you currently using any type of cloud or mobile solution within your firm, whether it be Office 365, Panzura, any other type of cloud storage solutions, Azure, things like that, are any type of cloud workstations as well too. A lot more people are tending to utilize a lot of the cloud solutions these days. And it looks like the majority of us are utilizing cloud solutions, almost 85%. Excellent. Okay, so we'll dive into it. Appreciate some of the feedback. That's gonna kind of help. Hopefully we'll have the fact that a lot of you are using BIM 360 these days. Hopefully we'll have some good questions come up too. So if we start on the BIM 360 platform, what the platform is and how it's built, it's all built off of Autodesk Forge. So Autodesk has an open source API, which is Autodesk Forge. That's what you see at the bottom ring here, the orange ring. And BIM 360 is built on top of that Forge platform. And being an open source API, it allows third-party software companies or Autodesk partners like ourselves to be able to create integrations within BIM 360 or create additional tools that help certain workflows that aren't currently out there within BIM 360. Something we currently here at Microdesk that we are offering, as a free tool right now through the pandemic is our BIM 360 bulk uploader, where you're able to create numerous projects all at once, and then also able to upload a lot of data all at once, and not running through the BIM 360 UI to be able to create. Right now you're probably creating one project at a time. You are able to utilize our bulk uploader and things like that. So that's why being on that Autodesk Forge platform is really nice. So, and then on top of that Forge platform is your project data. That's where all of your project specific files live. And that's the data that comes onto, BIM through the Autodesk Forge platform. And then that gives you the analytics and insight, from the design or the project startup all the way into your handover and operations. So the type of analytics and insight most people look to get out of BIM 360 when their project data is up in the Forge platform is, the design. So your design files are, typically up there. Clash detection and clash sequencing, and being able to run and host a lot of your clash files up on BIM 360. It has the 2D and 3D support, getting your task defects, running, punch listing in BIM 360 through an iPad, or doing your CA through BIM 360, and then all the way until you can do your cost management and handovers. So there's a lot of analytics and insight that BIM 360 looks to support. So some of those supported workflows, the way that it starts off is that on top of Forge is BIM 360 Docs. And BIM 360 Docs is the base pillar between all of the main aspects or the main hubs of BIM 360. So you see here on my screen, you got BIM 360 Docs as the bottom. That's your foundation to what BIM 360 has with these main pillars coming up. So if you look at Docs and some of the key functionalities within Docs, and then you get BIM 360 Design that comes off of Docs, BIM 360 Coordinate, and then BIM 360 Build with an add-on to cost management. And then you can take it out to BIM 360 Plan as well as BIM 360 Ops for operations and maintenance within buildings. So, but Docs is that main platform where all of your project data lives, and then you use some of these other hubs to gain either additional tools or additional analytics and insight into that document data or that project data within Docs. So starting with document management, as project managers, there's a lot of functionality within the UI that you have within document management to maintain a project, whether that be document distribution, sending files out to project teams, whether it be internal or external, or sharing files with your owners or clients specific. You have different functionality within transmittals and just simple file sharing aspects, or you can do more formal review processes, and I'll go through some of these in a little bit more detail. Marking up the drawings on BIM 360, you can do personal markups for yourself, whether you want to keep those markups that they're just notes for yourself as you're looking at drawings, or you can publish those globally that the entire project team can see those markups as you're marking them up. Versioning control, being able to upload and have all of those different versions up there, creating those approval workflows. And then it gives you that mobile access, whether you're working from your desktop, your iPad, your iPhone, or an Android. It's a very similar UI across all platforms. And then the Office 365 integration, they now have that you can upload Excel and Word documents and be able to edit and view those within BIM 360 directly. So if we start with document management, I'll pull up the document management here, and I'll start with the project admin. So being able to control some of the functionality as project managers, you'll get the project admin functionality, hopefully within BIM 360. So if you start, this is when you first sign in, to a project, and you jump into the project admin hub of any project. You have your project selector up top here, and then you see a couple tabs going along the top where you have your members of your project. This is where you can add and remove specific members, whether they be internal or external to your company, and then what hubs are you specifically giving them access to. So some of you may not see all of these. It just depends on what licenses your company currently holds, whether it be document management, design collaboration here, or even BIM 360 Build. You'll see project management, cost management, as well as model coordination for the BIM 360 Coordinate. So you're telling each project which user has access to what specific portion of BIM 360 within that project. And then as you add those members to your projects, it adds the companies list in here. So if you add in a member here and start typing in their name, it's going to ask, what company are they part of? And sorting out members and roles is very important, and companies, as you're going through on the document management side, when we get into the permissions of specific folders up in document management. So it's very critical that you get all of the data in here accurate, because that's going to help streamline the permission aspect within document management when you give specific users or companies or roles actual permissions into specific files within document management. The more important tab up here in Project Admin is the Services tab. This is where, when you first initiate a project within BIM 360, you tell BIM 360 which services you want to activate within that project. So you can see we have most of them active in this test project that we have here. So every single license that you have when you purchase licenses from Autodesk, whether it be just BIM 360 Docs or BIM 360 Design, BIM 360 Build, that's going to give you access to these different types of services here. So then you're just going to activate those up here. As project managers now, some of the additional functionalities that you're going to have is, if I come up here, you typically start in services and go under issues. And we'll get into issue tracking, but this is as you're doing issue tracking within your projects, how you want to customize some of those issues. What types of issues are you going to be creating? And a lot of project managers, they either live more under punch listing if they're doing CA or coordination or design, and then you can go under and add in additional subtypes underneath there. And then you can add in specific root causes if it's design, code compliance. These are all default out of the box, which you can add in your own custom ones, and then custom attributes. So this is as you're doing issues within document management, because you can create issues anywhere within BIM 360 Docs. If you want to see custom attributes or add functionality within custom attributes, you can create those here, and you can add those as text, a drop down, write a paragraph, or a numerical value. Okay, continue on. Going under notifications. As project managers, you typically want to be involved in what's going on when things are within document management. If issues are created in document management, do you want to see those updates instantly, hourly, or daily type of scenario? So you want to make sure you update your notification preferences, that as the project admin, you can, if you have other team members or other project teams, if they're externally creating issues, that you can see those as they come in instantly, or you can even fine tune that to hourly or daily, depending on what stage of the project that you're in. Okay. Some of the other aspects as project managers within document management is being able to do track the activity that's going on within BIM 360 Docs. So you see here within document management, I can track and see what all of the users are doing within document management. So I can see when they specifically have downloaded or viewed files, even if they upload or created an issue or done, completed a markup on a PDF or a Revit model, whatever it may be. You can go over into services, document management, and view the activity of what has gone on a daily basis. And then you can also export these out to a CSV format. Some of the advanced settings that you have, the new one up here is share documents publicly. Prior to this being active, I want to say probably a few weeks ago, Autodesk added this functionality within document management. Anybody you wanted to share files with had to have specifically a document management or BIM 360 Docs license at least, or they had to borrow one from your site. Now that is not the case. Now you're able to just share a URL, a public URL that you can copy in an email and paste it, or copy it from BIM 360 Docs and paste it in an email and send that email off. And then they're able to specifically download that file without having to borrow a license or get one of their own licenses. So that's a new feature up there. Show folder path. Typically as project managers, when you have external team members invited into your project as well too, you may have maybe confidential data or specific folder structures within there that you may not want external team members to be able to view because you're going to give them permissions to specific folders within document management. If you don't want them to see folders that they don't have access to, they're still not going to see the data that's in there. But if you just don't want them to see the additional folder path, you can turn this off so that they will not be able to see any additional folders except for the ones that they have access to. The other important one is mobile security key. If you have users that are accessing your BIM 360 projects via iPad or iPhone or Android, you can apply a mobile security key that they have to, it's kind of like a two-factor authentication. It must match for mobile device management. The next one is the reviews process. If you, as project managers, if you want your team members, if they're going to be submitting specific files or specific PDFs or whatever it may be, you can create a review process up in BIM 360 document management that as your production staff or your designers, they want to be able to submit, let's say, a PDF set, a weekly check set that they have uploaded up to BIM 360. They can click on it and they can actually submit it for a specific review approval workflow that it may go to their immediate manager and then goes to the project manager, and then it might go to the spec writer for spec review. And then once all of that gets approved, then it could go into the owner for a review or your specific client for review. There's different types of workflows that you can create, whether it be just a single step of your production staff to the project manager and then back to the production staff, or production staff, project manager, spec writer, whatever it may be. You can create multiple types of approval workflows up here. And it can be even groups. So as you create these, we'll just choose a simple two-step workflow for now. You give it a specific name. So what's going to be the identifier when people come up here to submit files for review? This could be just production and PM. Who's going to be the initiators? This is where you'll typically choose your designers, your production staff, the Revit modelers. All of them, they'll be able to initiate this review process. And then when it goes to the approver, you put yourself down as the project manager. And then how much time do you want to allow for that review process? So, and you can even change it if you forgot to, you want to do a multiple review process, you can change it in here as well too. So you don't have to specifically choose a group review in the beginning. You can update it here. And then you go through the approval status. What are the different statuses you want to apply as it goes through that approval workflow? So when it comes to you, you can, just straight approve it, reject it, approved with comments that they have to, so that it goes on to the next step, but it just has your additional comments. Rejected means it's going to go back to the initiator and they have to redo and resubmit. And then action upon completed. Once it's completed, you can also have copy of approved documents copied into a specific folder within BIM 360. So you can select a folder. It's going to show you the folder structure within your project. You can see here, I have a reviews folder set up. So any review that has been gone through the process and approved, it's going to take a copy of that with markups and everything else and place that in the reviewed folder. So once it's done, and then you can add in any custom notes that you may want to for the initiator up here. One of the last ones you can do is Revit Cloud Model upgrades up here as a project admin. Most project managers, they either leave this for their production staff, or there are a lot of project managers now that it's a simple upgrade button can manage the Revit model upgrade themselves without having to reach out to their production staff. So you can see here, once you go into the tab, it'll show you the current release of all the Revit cloud models that are up in BIM 360 and the available release that you can upgrade to. And then you can test the upgrade and see that you can get a report of any of the issues or warnings that may happen within a model prior to running the actual upgrade. And then you can run the upgrade here, and then your entire team will just have access to the Revit models within Revit 2020 from there on. So going into BIM 360 Docs itself, what it looks like with some of those workflows, we'll start with the most recent one that we chatted on, is the review process. So your production staff or your team wanted to submit a specific file for review, they can choose multiple PDFs, and then they can actually submit these for that review process. They'll hit that submit for review, and then they'll choose, let's say it had that production, the PM one in here. So we have this plans review process. I can select that, and it's going to go to the next, whoever I deemed as the next step for me being the initiator. Then it's going to add in the files here, and then I can submit these for review. So that it's going to go into that review process, and then you can see here it's going to, it had in here copy to plans review. So it's going to copy from here into this plans and review once it's all completed. Then they'll hit the submit button, and then the project manager or the reviewer will get an actual email notification that there's documents ready for their review. They'll be able to click on the link directly in their email, and it'll take them directly out into this reviews tab for whichever has, they're assigned to for that review process, and they'll be able to click on it and see, okay, all of these files are ready for review. I can start the review. And then once I start reviewing them, it's going to track all of the stuff that I do, track all the notes, any comments that I make in here, and then I can go through and do the approval status, whether they approved with comments or rejected. This sheet needs to go back to Pete here, that he was the initiator of this. And then once they're done, once I'm done with my process here, I can hit submit and review. Once I've either selected approve, rejected, approve with comments on all these specific PDFs up here, then it will go on to either the next phase or go back to the initiator, depending on how many steps you chose to set up that initial review process when you did the initial setup. So going back into the folders, some of the other functionalities specifically within document management that you have as project managers, you may want to be notified when a specific folder has been modified by a team member, or let's say you're an architect, you're the architectural project managers, you want to know when structural kind of uploads files or edits files, things like that. You can subscribe to specific folders up here. So that if I'm the architectural project manager, I can subscribe to the structural folder here. So once the structural team member uploads their Revit model or publishes a new version or does specific tasks within that structural folder, I'll get an email notification because I've subscribed to it. And I will be notified right away without having to come up here and keep checking and see, okay, when have they uploaded stuff? Or it's typically a good process. When you first start out a project, you subscribe to the structural folder. When they first initiate the Revit Cloud model, you get a notification when that cloud model gets initiated up there, that you can actually link those into your architectural model then. So on even the reverse side too, structural can subscribe to the architectural team folder and things like that. So subscribe is usually a good identifier into kind of tracking what's going on in specific folders. The other thing that as project managers is the document distribution, that you may not want to submit specific files for actual review. One of the new functionalities that I mentioned was doing the public links. So when you have that functionality enabled as the project admin, you're able to select specific files, and then when you hit the share button up at the top, you can actually create a public link. I think did I disable it? Yeah, I think I disabled it, but this is where you'll see it over here. If you go back into document management, embed settings, it is on my project, yes. So there should be a drop down right here that says share with public, and it'll give you a link that you can send off. You'll enter the email addresses in here and then add a note, and you'll be able to send it off directly from sharing. I don't think you can do it from plans. You might have to do it from project files, project documents, submissions. Click here, share with public. There you go. So because plans, when you're sharing with plans, you won't be able to share plans, anything that's in the plans with public, because of, as they get uploaded to plans, it has to specifically be, it has to be opened in the viewer, in BIM 360 viewer. So any public sharing has to be done within project files itself. So you can see here, you'll be able to share a link, and then you'll enter the emails and then add a note and then send it off. They'll get an email notification. They'll be able to click the link and then download these specific files. That is the only functionality that they will have with that share with public functionality. The other thing you can do is create an actual transmittal. So if you want to create a more formal transmittal of that, you can track the process or track the progress of what has been done with this file after you shared it. You can click create transmittal, select the recipients within the project team. I'll go ahead and select myself, hit save, and then you'll be able to create that. And then I'll get an email notification, and then you can see here the transmittal tracking process. I can click on that transmittal that I just created, see the file that was up here, and then I can see the actual details of what had happened with that transmittal. So I can see the sender was me. I sent it out to myself. I actually received the email notification. I can actually pull it up here. So there's my email notification. This is what happens. So you see the transmittal has been submission is ready to view. So I can view the transmittal, and then it's just going to take me out to the transmittal process here within BIM 360 once I click on that link. So then it's going to track if I have downloaded it or made comments to it, whatever I needed to do. It's going to specifically track all of that data within this transmittal process here. So it's a little bit more formal tracking. Go back into the project here. Okay, so then once you get files in ready for review, or you've shared those files out, what do you do with those files? So when your team has PDF and Revit models and AutoCAD files, all of that up here, as project managers, you have a lot of functionality that you can, the first step is you can compare different versions. So if I go under the architectural model here, I can click on the architectural model. I can actually go into it, and then I can click the compare down at the bottom. It's going to show me that I can compare different versions of this model. I can compare it with a different one. And then when you compare it, I actually reran this prior to starting this because it usually takes a while, not a while, but long enough that you can see. I wanted to show the difference between version 6 and version 14 that was up here. And it's going to show you green is added, red's removed, and yellow's modified, that you'll be able to see that data within 3D. So I can see the production staff actually deleted the structural framing in here and re-added it as green instead of just modifying it. So I'll be able to say, go back to my team, why didn't you just shift these over or respace them instead of completely deleting and remodeling this whole thing? That was, not time well spent when it came to modifying the structure here. You can see that they modified the roof. They added, a lot of data around the exterior here. So there's a lot, and you can actually filter these down. So I can turn off and see what was specifically deleted in this model. So I've turned off what was added and what was modified, and I can see all of this data that was deleted, or I can filter it down and see what was added or what was modified. So I can actually see, and then it gives me a full list of all of the different items that were modified in here, so that I can specifically click on these and view them. You can see it's a recessed can that was modified from version 4 to version 16 here. And then it was moved by, you can see, 0.09 feet in the XYZ direction. So this is your X, Y, and Z coordinates in here of how it was moved. So you're actually able to see at, fine detail of what happened within, some of these Revit models. And nowadays, as we're all working remotely, that's very important to see what our production staff is doing on a day-by-day basis or even an hourly basis, so we can keep track of what's going on in some of these models, being able to fine-tune some of these down. And you can download this information here or extract it out. You can even, what disciplines were affected. Is it architectural? Is it structural, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, and then miscellaneous changes. You can even search the filters if it was lighting fixtures, stairs, what was removed, and then modification type. Was it hide shape changes, hide transformations, property changes, things like that. So you can really filter this down to see very specific data that you may want to see. So that is the compare functionality. Other things that you have when the Revit model is open within the BIM 360 viewer, you have the functionality to view 3D files, 3D views that are up here. They have to be published. So here's the coordination view. You can go and see the 2D sheets that are up here as well too, that come directly from the Revit model. So you don't necessarily have to have your project team constantly be PDFing sheets because you can pull that from here and you can actually print it directly from here as well too, so that you don't necessarily, if it's a big job and your production staff is PDFing once a week, typically those PDF processes, let's say you have 100 to 200 sheets in your Revit model, that could be, an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours, sometimes wasted, depending on if you have elevations with shadows on, you have custom crop boxes, things like that, where you may not want to have your production staff or your designers specifically run those PDF every week, where you can just tell them to, publish and have that directly up here. And then you can print them yourself, to, specific sheets yourself to a specific printer, whether it be half size or 11 by 17, things like that. Or you can just view them up here and mark them up here and do your issue tracking up here as well too. So that usually ends up saving a lot of time, not having your production staff being able to PDF. Because while you're up here too and viewing things on the plan, you have some additional functionality that you can go into the split view mode. You may not have full knowledge of how to be navigating around Revit. So as you're clicking in things, you can actually click on, I'm clicking on the ceiling in here, and it's going to show me that in the split view mode in 3D, so I can see, a little bit what's going on around that ceiling too. So I'm not just viewing it in 2D functionality here. I can actually see it, 2D and 3D next to each other. So I can see how it was modeled. Do they have this at the correct elevation, type of thing. So I'm doing a little bit more due diligence, in BIM 360 itself, rather than just viewing a PDF that they may print on a weekly checking basis. The other thing you can do is if you want to, actually see a little bit better in 3D view, you have what's called this place me function that you can actually place yourself in a room and what camera direction do you want to look at. So I'll look this way at the door. It's going to give you some navigation quick tips. How do you look around? How do you move around, type of thing. And then once you're in there, looks like I'm below grade on this view. So you'll have to use those navigation tips to go up and down and get yourself in here. Go back in there. See if I can view from a plan view instead of a reflected ceiling plan. Nope. Not a good demo project for that. Yeah, see if I can You can see it's really slow when I'm up into place me. I'm trying to move up. It tries not to go, really quick, because sometimes you can really jump yourself out of a building or jump yourself, too high or too low. So I'm using the E button to jump myself. There we go. Now I'm up into the building and I can actually see inside of this room and view around it a little bit better. That depends on, it's all going to depend on how these floor plans were created and what the associated level is from some of these. So as I clicked into this and I did the place me, it pulled the associated level of maybe top of footing or something like that. So you want to make sure that your team is actually setting up these Revit models properly. You can see some of these Autodesk data sets aren't necessarily set up how we always want them to be. So and then once you're up here and you've viewed some of this stuff, you can be able to create some quick markups within what you're doing, whether it be freehand, placing text, clouding data, clouding areas in here. One thing that you want to be sure is that as you're clouding data or creating markups in here, you want to make sure that you're changing how it's published. So whether it's private or published means it's public. That's a lot of questions that I get nowadays, is that as I create these markups, why can't my team see these markups? Is because by default it does it private. So you'll want to make sure that as you create these markups, you're going to want to publish it out to the team and then hit save the markup. Then it's going to be visible to the entire project team or whoever has permissions to be to view these sheets or these Revit models. So as you create those markups, then you'll have this markup tracker going along the left-hand side here. So you can see this is the cloud that I just placed. And if I, made a comment that this is the wrong door, it's the wrong panel, I can actually add an attachment, maybe a specific cut sheet of a different panel or a different door width or, a door type, door mark, whatever it may be. I can add in specific attachments that whoever is going through these markups can gain additional data or additional information that they may need to update this in the Revit model. So I can add attachments to my specific markups here. And then once it's marked up, you can go through and edit it or archive it. If it's done, they can archive these as they complete these. So they'll be able to archive it. It'll be done. It'll go through and archived, and then it'll remove it from the list here. The other option, instead of doing straight markups, we use the markup tool, is the issue tracking. You'll see here, you'll be able to create an issue. So if I want to, do the same markup, but, I meant not actually clouding this, I'm just placing a dot on this door. Give it a type, this is the door type, and I can actually assign this to a specific user. Who do I want to update this, from my production staff or from my design team as I'm making these markups? So I can, assign it to a specific person, or I can assign it to a specific role. Is it, all of my architects or my designers, whoever I have specifically set to specific roles, or I can go to a specific company so that everybody that's attached to that company will get a notification. So I'm going to go ahead and assign this to myself real quick. And when do I need this update by, so we can see these updates on the latest set, the latest print. So I need these done by Thursday this week, because we do an updated set every Friday. Do I want to update specific location information in here? If I don't need to, but I can add in a root cause, is it a design code compliance type of thing, documentation conflict, documentation incomplete, there's no tag for this door, and I can make that comment, add tag, and then I can create that. So once I create those, it goes through a more formal tracking process versus the markup, that once I go back into my document management, I can go into my issues tab up here, and I can see all of those issues that I've created in, kind of like a list format. So here's the latest one that I created, door type, and I can click on it here, and I can see what the linked document, I actually place this in that Revit model, and then what's the description they need to add a tag, and then they can go through and they can make comments, or I can add different attachments. I can see the activity as it was completed, and it can actually be answered or closed out directly from here. And then when I go through and I go do my weekly team meeting, I can export out all of these issues in a PDF report or a CSV report, so that when I get to my team meeting and I can go down and do my due diligence with all of these open issues and say, who's taking care of this, who's taking care of that, and make sure that we're staying on top of some of these issues and they're actually being completed or taken care of from my design team or my production staff. Okay, so getting back into folders. And the beauty of all of that being in BIM 360, I did that within the Revit model. I was in the architectural Revit model here. I created issues, I did markups, I was able to do the viewer, and that's all the same whether I'm viewing the Revit file or PDF files. These are some PDF files up here, so I'll open up sheet A301 here, and you can see the viewer is the same. I have my markup tools along the right-hand side. I have some additional tools along the bottom here, measure, compare, things like that. But then I also still have my markup tracking and my issue tracking along the left-hand side here. So no matter what file type you're viewing, the BIM 360 viewer is very similar. It's just, it gives you a difference in the functionality of what you're viewing. So if I'm in, like the sheet view for 2D here, I can actually click on elements here and view the properties. So it's giving me additional functionality, the fact that I'm in a Revit file versus the PDF file. So I can actually see that this is a single flush door here, and then view some of the properties. So that I'm getting a little bit more informed data, that I'm also doing some double checking to make sure that my production staff or my design team is using the proper families or they're modeling accurately, things like that. And that works the same way with in AutoCAD files too. So I got CAD documents up here. I can actually open up AutoCAD files in the same viewer. You can see here I have my markup tools and some additional tools along the bottom here. But then just like in Revit, I can actually click on some of the line and view some of the line setting, the line properties, the line type, the layer information, color information, is my production staff, actually showing the proper colors on the proper layers, things like that. So I'm actually doing some more in-depth checking instead of just viewing things on a PDF or, a printout version of things. And then the most recent, or some of the other added functionalities that they have is being able to view Word files and Excel files up here. So these are all Word files, spec sections. So I can actually click on these and it's going to open up in the Word viewer up here. So I can actually view Word files that are up here and I can actually edit them in the browser directly from here. I can print it. So I don't, if I'm viewing this on my iPad, I don't have to go out and grab the Microsoft Word application and download that. I can do all of that within my BIM 360 iPad application, or even on, a desktop or a Surface or, a laptop, whatever it may be. Same way with Excel files that are up here. I think I have them under project schedule, maybe. Yeah, project schedule. Excel files that are up here. You can see it opens it up in Excel format. I see there's a couple questions. Is there a project schedule tool in any of the BIM 360 softwares? Not currently. It is in the pipeline that they are coming up with a project schedule tool. Will a link in this presentation be available to participate afterwards? Yes, there will be a link to this presentation afterwards. We will upload this to our YouTube channel. So you will see that afterwards as well. Okay. So that's some of the functionality that you have within document management as project managers. Working, if you have Revit files up in BIM 360 Design, you have some functionality within BIM 360 design as well too. Getting into design collaboration, that's where you have that Revit cloud work sharing, those live Revit models up into the cloud. You're able to review, markup, and issue Revit models specifically as they're up there. You can see here, this is the design collaboration hub. You can be viewing the Revit models up here as well too, not just on the document management. And then you can actually see the progress using the timeliner up here instead of using the compare function within document management. So you'll be, there's a timeline tracker within the design collaboration module itself that you can actually track how and kind of use the grip and the slider bar and see, you know, how the model progressed. You can also do the compare function directly up here in design collaboration. You see here there what's added, what's removed, what's modified. It's very similar as the compare functionality within document management. You can do all of that within design collaboration as well too. You can change the visualizations up here, specifically that you can turn the models into wireframe, just like you can within Revit. It's just all at the click of a button, versus having to go into the Revit model and, you know, understand how to change visualizations using the view properties and things like that within Revit. And then if your team, you don't specifically have to reach out to your team to be able to publish document sets. You can do all of that directly out in the BIM 360 Design Collaboration Hub. You can open up a Revit, you can be viewing the Revit model in there, and you can say publish the latest set directly from there instead of emailing a project team member or a production team member or a design team member and say, hey, can you guys publish the latest set so that I can be viewing it? You can do it yourself directly from within Design Collaboration. Okay, so as project managers, you can also use the project homepage, the Insight tab, to be viewing things at a global snapshot for your data and analytics. You know, you can see here what project submittals do we have going on. You can customize some of these cards that are up there of what issues that are going on. So you can be tracking, you know, at just a quick snapshot on the Insight tab here, how many issues are open, how many are answered, so that you can go through that review process with your team. A lot of project managers use this as a starting point for their team meetings, their weekly team meetings, so that they can, you know, with that global snapshot of, you know, issue tracking and what's going on with specific Revit models, the review workflows, submittals, transmittals, things like that. You can really just get that global snapshot utilizing that Insight tab for all of the different types of data and analytics that are up there. And there's even custom cards that you can put in if you're using separate integrators, separate integrations into BIM 360, you know, whether it be from Joe and Deploy or Leica or, you know, any third-party software. They usually have custom Insight cards that you can add to your project dashboard as well too. So, I mean, why most firms are besides for the obvious nowadays with, you know, everybody working remotely, most people are utilizing BIM 360 even coming out of, you know, COVID and working remotely because of the functionality that, you know, it's connecting your project teams, not just, you know, your remote team members, but it's internal and external team members. So it's connecting your architects with your MEP engineers and your structural engineers. And it's also connecting if you have multiple offices, not having to use Revit server or a different, you know, mirroring solution that you're posting your central models up into, you know, Revit server, or that mirror solution, you know, for working, you know, in those work shared models. It makes it a lot more streamlined. The security, it follows a lot of secure protocols, you know, that AWS has. The integration, the separate integrations that it has, and then the data driven. So mobile, giving you the connected mobile aspect. You know, we're not just working from our desktops anymore or our laptops. It's giving me project, you know, insight at my fingertips. Are there separate fees? There's a question up here. Are there separate fees for each version of BIM 360 docs versus design versus project management? Yes, there are. Except for the fact that if you get a BIM 360 design license, it comes with docs. If you get a BIM 360 build license, it comes with docs. The fact that all of those different licenses, it all relies on docs, you know, so if you get BIM 360 coordinate, you still get docs with it too. Good question. So like I said, the security protocol, that it's because of the fact that it's on AWS, it follows the SOC 2 compliance ISO. There are a lot of other security certificates that it has with AWS. So if you're looking for specific security certs, reach out to us and we're happy to collaborate with Autodesk and see if we can get specific security certificates for you guys. Last but not least, the integrations that it has. There is a full list of the fact that it's built on that Autodesk Forge platform. Like I said in the beginning, it gives third-party softwares and Autodesk partners the capability of creating their own integrations. So there is a full list of integrations that grow on a monthly basis. You can see the full list up there at, you know, integrations.bim360.autodesk.com. You can even, there's even integrations for Office 365, you know, connecting your OneDrive into BIM 360 or your Box Drive or Google Drive or things like that. So make sure if you're utilizing specific software currently within your current workflow, just check to see if there's integration out there. It doesn't hurt. Okay, so I will open it up now to any specific questions that anybody may have. I can go ahead, I'll unmute everybody. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question verbally, go ahead. Does BIM 360 work with files on the Revit server? No, it does not. Revit server is completely separate. I like to think of BIM 360 design as the next generation of what Revit server is going to be. It's pretty much Revit server in the cloud, but it does not connect into your Revit server that is currently set up on-prem. Good question though. Any other questions? So the files will have to be on a BIM 360 and none on Revit server. Yes, that is correct. The one thing that I forgot to mention is the desktop connector. So as all of you may be pulling files off of Revit server and putting them up on BIM 360, you do have a desktop connector that if your Revit files, if you have BIM 360 design and you're doing the Revit collaboration in the cloud, your live Revit models are going to load up there. You can also have your linked files that are linked into your Revit models, whether it be DWG, Excel, your TXT, your Keynote files, things like that. You can have those live up into BIM 360 and you can actually link them and pass them through your desktop connector. Does BIM 360 have an archiving feature or a way to roll back earlier dates if a corruption occurs? Yes, it does. Good question. So when you're in either BIM 360 itself, the document management, you can go into a Revit file and you can go into the versions and you can view the version history here, that you can actually download a source file of a different version, or you can do it directly from within Revit itself. So when you're in Revit and you have Revit open, you go to your collaboration tab up at the top, there's a tool in there called Manage Models. Underneath the Manage Models, you can specifically go in, see every time someone has synchronized that Revit model, and you can actually roll back into any synchronized version of that Revit model at a click of a button. Good question. Can you lock a specific version of the model example when 100% CDs are approved before CA? Yeah, so there's different workflows for that. So what others do is when you want to save a snapshot of a Revit model, there's firms that do copy, and then they'll copy it into a targeted folder that you can copy that snapshot into a different place up into here without having to download it and re-upload it. So you're taking that 100% CD snapshot and you're copying it out there so that you're leaving the production model alone. As they get into CA, they can continue on. Do all linked files go along with the copy? No, they do not. Good question. Looks like all the questions are coming from Tyler too. Yes. Anybody else have any additional questions, or Tyler, any additional? I can I think I muted everybody. Oh, there we go. Yeah, sorry. I unmuted everybody. So if you want to mute yourself and
oh, there we go. Now I'm not muted.
There we go.
Yeah, no, they're all my questions. I apologize to the rest of the group, but so like we have milestones where we save out the files. We have MEPS, we have everybody in-house, all on the Revit server. So if we want to archive, there's like an e-transmit in 2019. Is there a way of doing that with BIM 360 where we can, all the linked files, CAD and that can be saved out and archived, or do we have to individually go to the A and then the M and the S and the P and save those all out?
No, that's the beauty of e-transmit, is you can still use e-transmit directly from Revit.
So not in, and that would work on BIM 360 with the files all there?
Yep. E-transmit still works on BIM 360 models.
Okay, so it wouldn't be done in BIM 360, you'd have to do it through Revit.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, but you can do that where you can copy Revit models out and, you know, place them into different files manually up here, or you can continue to use the e-transmit directly from Revit.
Okay.
Yeah, I used to have a Revit server when I was a BIM manager, and you'll notice a difference. You know, it's night and day on how the files run from Revit server versus BIM 360. BIM 360 does a really good job of compressing the files as it runs through, and it doesn't copy local files over anymore. What it does is it caches it onto your machine. So if you hit %temp% in your file explorer here, you'll see here, I think I have a couple Revit caches that I've opened up Revit models on my local machine. Let's see how far back I have to go. I don't think I've opened up any really recently, but this is where it places those local caches. So another thing is that if you ever have users that, you know, they're trying to open up a Revit model from BIM 360 and it's saying that it can't, I usually tell my Revit users to come up to this temp folder and just completely delete it out and then go to reopen it again, and they're able to open it.
Is that similar to like create new local, like when you use with Revit, or is that not, there is no local created when you're saved on the BIM 360?
Yep, there is no create local anymore when you're on BIM 360, which to me, it's a lot nicer. The fact that I don't have to make sure that my users are creating that local file, because there is no, you end up with a lot less corrupt models in BIM 360 than you typically would working on your local area network or Revit server, because there's too many steps and there's too many precautions that your local users have to take working within your LAN or your Revit server that they don't have to follow anymore within BIM 360.
So you're not working locally. Are you tied to the speed of the internet then?
You are working locally. That's why it gets cached on your machine. So it gets locally cached in that temporary folder. And it does, when you work on that initial open, it is working on the internet speed of your connection. But I've seen firms that, and people that, you know, work very efficiently in just a 10 meg connection. Because once it's cached on your machine, it feels like it's working off of your C drive then. And then when you hit the sync button, all it's doing is it's looking at the difference between the cloud model and your local cache version, and it's just syncing the difference. That's all it's doing. Good questions, Tyler. I know we're a couple minutes over, but you know, Tyler, if you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us too. I'm more than happy to set up, you know, a call and we can, you know, work through a lot of this stuff, or any additional questions that you have. Just feel free to, you know, reach out to us, send an email. If you have your local support rep, or you can go to salessupport@microdesk.com, or you can just give us a call and we're happy to jump on additional calls. But thank you, everybody. That's all that I have. Yep. So sorry for going 5 minutes over. Hopefully everyone has a good day and we'll talk to you guys next time.